250 years of slavery, 100 years of Jim Crow, sharecropping, the Ku Klux Klan, lynchings, bombings, mass incarceration, the separation and destruction of the black family. All of that has had an effect on our mind. Our mind needs to be decolonized. We today are experiencing mental slavery, not physical slavery as once our ancestors had to endure. In my book, 7 Steps to Decolonize the Mind, we take you through every step to start releasing the chains that's on your mind. He or she who controls the mind control the person. It is in a vested interest of the white supremacist system to keep your mind bogged down in a mental slavery, throwing entertainment, throwing drugs, throwing alcohol, anything they can at you to keep you bogged down. You got to free yourself from mental slavery by purchasing our book, 7 Steps to Decolonize the Mind, today on Amazon. Make sure you share it with your family, share it with your friends. Everyone can benefit from decolonizing the mind, because once your mind is decolonized, you will never be put to sleep again. So Joe Biden has decided to invite the UN to the United States to survey the land to check out the America's human rights record based on how they treat Black Americans or anyone of African descent. Now, the Republicans are very, very upset about this because they don't want the UN, looking into anything. I mean, but come on, let's just be real. I mean, everyone saw what happened to George Floyd. It's not a secret. The whole world saw what happened to George Floyd. Okay? I mean, that's just bottom line. So maybe Biden is trying to save face before the world. Because let me tell y'all something, the United States didn't put itself in a pickle. And the reason why I say that is because they went around the world talking about, democracy and freeing people from tyranny and people with human rights records, and then people looking at the United States now and say, well, wait a minute, what about your human rights record? Look at what happened to George Floyd. Look what happened to Philando Castile. Look at what happened to, the Mother Emanuel parishioners at the church. I mean, look at all the things that happens to Black people constantly, whether it's through law enforcement or just a white supremacist that's allowed to run around that's never been put in jail. So yes, it's definitely something that we need to look at. There's a long history of this. But let's continue to talk about this story. So the State Department said responsible nations must not shrink from scrutiny of their human rights record. They said rather than they should acknowledge it with the intent to improve. Now, they said they urge all UN member states to join the United States in this effort and confront the scourge of racism, racial discrimination, and xenophobia. They said because when all people, regardless of their race or ethnicity, are free to live up to their full potential, it's our collective security is strengthened. Now, the State Department, it said, reached out to the UN Special Rapporteur, as said, on contemporary forms of racism, and the UN Special Rapporteur on minority issues for an official visit. Now, the Secretary of State said in a statement, invitations to other UN experts who report and advise on thematic human rights issues. Now, they said Secretary Blinken also used a statement to welcome the UN Human Rights Council adoption of the resolution on Tuesday that calls for action to combat systemic racism against Africans and people of African descent in the context of law enforcement. So the invitation, they say, come at a pivotal time for racial justice issues in the United States. And they speak about the, of course, the lynching of George Floyd that happened back in May of 2020 that set America ablaze. And let me say something real quick. This video is not about South Africa, but I need to interject South Africa into this. The same images that people are seeing out of South Africa right now, remember, last year, May 2020, June, July, it was the same images. The burning, people looting, people tired. You understand? When you're sitting there and constantly oppressing people, what do you think is going to happen? things going to boil over. Same thing in South Africa. That's why I'm not for no kind of, media outlet, these Mzungus in particular, talking crap about South Africa when this country was looking the exact same way. Actually, in some instances, this country was looking worse. But we do have a report coming out about South Africa. Sister Wangel is going to cover that. Continuing. Now, they said that one reason, they said it's important to look beyond the borders of the United States in the face of demands for seismic change on the racial justice front. They say it's the international human rights norms require and offer the foundation for a better system, and say, than the one we currently in place in this country. Okay, they're talking about the United States. Now, they say rapporteurs, just to let you know, are independent experts appointed by the UN Human Rights Council, typically having the role of compiling information on their respective human rights issue, undertaking visits, I say, to different countries, submitting reports to the UN. Now, of course, Donald Trump, he could not stand the Human Rights Council. He pulled out of it. I mean, well, that sounds about right for Donald Trump. But when Biden got back in, he rejoined the Human Rights Council. Now, the Human Rights Council also gave a recommendation. They said that black folks need reparations. They say we cannot be healed or repaired without it. So inviting them to come to America, why can't you just do what they said to do on the reparations? You know good and well it wouldn't be hard to do. Look, all the money you paid in Afghanistan. That could have been a reparations payment right there. All those years you were there, throwing the money in the toilet. You understand? You're constantly giving money every freaking month to some other country and not the citizens of this country. Because any money that's given to this country is going to stimulate the economy. But if anybody that's listening from the UN Human Rights Council, because, hey, a lot of people do pass by and listen, they just may not say nothing to us. Why don't you ask them about that recommendation about reparations and what are they going to do about that? Because that's reparative justice, right? Why don't you ask them about a hate crime bill? Ask them about that. Because black Americans suffer the most hate crimes in this country, statistically. But yet black Americans to get a hate crime bill. Why don't you ask them about even voting rights? It should be permanent. Civil rights should be permanent. They got to vote on your civil rights every 25 years. Black folks don't have permanent civil rights in this country. All it takes is a president and Congress to say we don't want black folks to have civil rights anymore, and you look into that. Now, the new bill they want to come out with for permanent civil rights is the Equality Act, but they want to add all this LGBT to it. Now, our ancestors died. Our ancestors was hung from trees. Our ancestors was bit by dogs, water holes, and everything else that happened to our ancestors to fight for civil rights. And I just don't think it's even right to let people just graft themselves to the things that we fought for, and they didn't have to suffer. They didn't have to die. They didn't have to get bit by dogs or lynched or anything else. That isn't right whatsoever. I say this much. I believe in that you need to pay the cost. You know what I'm saying? You got to pay the cost. How you gonna get a reward if not paying the cost? And that's been the issue for a while with these different special interest groups coming in and grafting themselves, to our pain and what we went through. Then some of them come into this country, some of them in the Asian community and colleges, try to attack affirmative action when they say that if they take affirmative action away, that's going to even lower their enrollment in college more than what they think it is now. You understand? But see, they don't know America without affirmative action that they benefit from. They benefit from affirmative action a lot more than we do, especially the Mzungu woman. She definitely benefits from affirmative action more than we do. So it's a whole lot of things that could be done. You understand? The wealth gap can easily be closed. Reparations can close that. Investing definitely into getting rid of the environmental racism. There's so many different things that could be done. But the thing is, the UN could make an eloquent report. But let's call it what it is. It sounds like this political theater. It sounds like Joe Biden is trying to repair the image of America by inviting the UN to come in and look at these things, because they don't need the UN at all to come into this country and fix anything or even recommend anything. They got American citizens been telling you forever on how to fix the racial issues, how to fix the wealth gap, how to fix everything. Everything is literally right there. They got all kind of experts that told you that, but you don't want to do it. So I do not believe that they all of a sudden they just turn over a new leaf. No, I believe this is political theater so the United States could try to repair their image. Because understand, what happened to George Floyd and what happened afterwards hurt the image of America. Do you remember when China came over here and they had that meeting with China in Alaska? And you remember when they were trying to tell the Chinese about their human rights violations? And then they turned around and say, well, what about you? Look at what y'all did to George Floyd. Look at what happens to black people in this country all the time. The Chinese said that. So don't be trying to tell us anything when you got all these human rights violations. The world is telling America about itself now. So if America wants a proper standing, then you need to do right by the black man and black woman of America. And you know what to do was right. You know exactly what to do. So let's see if you're going to be arrogant like you normally would be. It's that you rather, keep up your racism than fix your image. But we will see. We will see. Because the thing is, the world owns to you now. You can't walk around the world telling them you this moral, honest broker. No. Because everybody got the internet now. Everybody got it. Some people may got a slower connection, but they still got the internet. And the younger people throughout the world are watching YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. They're on WhatsApp, Telegram. They're all over the place. People got their own websites. You can't hide the truth no more. So this is on you. Fix your act by doing right by black folks. Well, leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about this particular story. I just believe this political theater. Because like I said, they can fix the issues tomorrow. They supposedly got, both houses, supposedly? Now all of a sudden a filibuster is a problem. Okay. And they can override that if they want to as well. They can get rid of it. But they don't want to do that. So once again, it's just political theater. They're not really trying to do right by black people.
If you are over the age of 35, stop everything you're doing right now. After a lifetime of eating fatty foods, you may run the risks of a stroke or heart attack due to plaque buildup in your veins and arteries. To learn how you can reduce your risks, visit youthfountainlab.com or call 1-800-853-7856 today. This may be a life-changing call for you or someone you love. Thank you, and we hope to hear from you.